Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's County Council meeting. We'll start off our meeting with an invocation. Pastor Steve Parks is here from Bible Baptist Church to pray for us tonight, and then I will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please stand and remove your caps.
Let us pray. Father, we come before you this evening, and we are so aware of the fact that you are concerned with every aspect of our lives. We have so much to be thankful for, that you've allowed us to live in a community that affords us such a wonderful quality of life. We thank you for these servants that watch over that and make decisions. And we pray, Father, for your wisdom. You've said in your word that if any of us lack wisdom, we can ask you and you will give it to us. And that's certainly what we ask tonight, is your wisdom. We pray that you would watch over these proceedings. And Father, if we have personal agendas, that we might put those aside for the sake of the public good and the needs of our community, that we might live peaceable lives. Father, for these things, we give you thanks and honor. We pray in Christ's precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Here. Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander. Here. Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
We will move on to bill number 4532, conditional use permit.
Oh, gosh. Excuse me. Bill number 4532, requested by Michael Herbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 17-13 for a wholesale nursery and boat storage to Shannon L. Hines and Fallon Hines property owners.
Robert, you here? So Donna would swear you in?
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So if you'll give us a brief synopsis of this application?
This is conditional use permit 17-13. And in this application, the property owners, Shannon and Fallon Hines, they're requesting a conditional use permit for two different uses. One is for a nursery, and the other is for boat storage. There are two adjoining properties that these property owners own on Hopewell Road. It's south of Highway N and about a half mile from the Fallon city limits and in the unincorporated county. In this case, the Hines in 2010 went to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to the County Council and received approval for a conditional use permit for these both of these uses in 2010. They followed up with a renewal of that in 2012 because they weren't able to complete or initiate the project at that time. Since that time, though, unfortunately, the conditional use permit has expired because they've not yet initiated those uses on the property. So they've come before you tonight to renew that conditional use permit or to seek approval all over again for a conditional use permit for a nursery and a boat storage for about 50 spaces. In this situation, many of the improvements have been made. The lot's already been paved with gravel, and they would need to do some additional pavement for parking. They've constructed a bioretention basin. And I would note, in terms of the criteria for conditional use permits, there's another nursery right next door, the Chateau Nursery, which literally wraps around two sides of this nursery. So in terms of land uses, there's actually the same exact use essentially as next door. The last thing I would mention is that this property once served the County Highway Department. It was a storage lot for the County Highway Department. And there's an existing salt dome building on the property, which will be reused according to the applicants. So with that, you'll find in your memo the criteria for conditional use permits, and you also see that the Planning and Zoning Commission, having recently reviewed this, recommend approval at at a vote of 9 in favor and none against, and we had no one speaking at the public hearing other than the applicants, the Hines. With that, I'm not sure if the Hines are here this evening, and if they are, I would like to call them forward and introduce them.
Are the Hines here this evening? Okay.
Okay.
So with that, I would ask if there is anyone who would like to speak on this particular issue. We'll open it up for public comment. If there's any individuals supporting or opposing this application, they're invited to share their comments with the council. The council staff will call you forward one at a time. Each speaker, hopefully you submitted a speaker's card at that point. Upon the conclusion of the individual comments, we'd ask you to remain at the podium for any follow-up questions from the council staff or the applicant. Obviously, that's not going to happen with the applicant not being here tonight, unless they're phoning them in, which I don't think is going to happen. We encourage you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Should another speaker have shared the same information, if you feel that they've covered your topic, please say ditto. The record will reflect that you share the same opinion. Is there anyone here to speak on this conditional use permit tonight? Well, with that, then we will conclude this public comment on this particular conditional use. Robert, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Seeing that, we will move on to public hearing on traffic regulations. Do we have any speakers on traffic regulations
I do have
tonight?
some that have filled out cards, and the first one I have is Herb Steck.
Come on up, Herb.
Thank you, sir. I'm the president of the homeowners for Nottingham Forest subdivision. John has been out. We have a parking issue. We had an annual meeting 2 months ago and had the largest turnout in 30 years that I've been president. And the homeowners are complaining of parking on Cambrook Drive as it exits onto Kisker. We have one person on one side who drives a Hostess cake truck, which are not small. And on the other side, they have a pickup truck and a car that they constantly park in the street. The ambulances can barely make it in. The fire department one time could not make it in. This has been an ongoing issue for a long time. Our subdivision rules specifically state no parking on the street overnight, but they don't adhere to that, and there's nothing in the rules that we can do to make them stop except put a sticker on the car, and that's it. We're petitioning the county for parking on no sides for the first 4 houses, and then from there to the cul-de-sac, which I believe is 15 houses on the south side of the street. We believe this will alleviate the problem and take care of any congestion we have in the area. The homeowners voted, 39 homes out of 137 voted for this issue. So it was a good turnout. That's about all I have.
Excellent.
I know John came out, and of course, nobody was parked on the street, which happens.
You have anything further?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much. The next speaker on this issue?
I have a Matthew Jorn.
Matthew?
Thank you, gentlemen. My name's Matthew. I do live in the Lexington Heights subdivision, and I'm here to talk about the traffic regulations in that. There's a number of them, and really I'm against them. The reason for that is really predominantly most of these are just T's intersections. There's, you have a natural right-of-way for the cross traffic, and you have to stop to make a left or a right. And it's really just, it doesn't make any sense to spend the money or the funds to do that. There's also another one in particular that's at the intersection of Marcia and Kayron. It's a corner. There's no regulation that I can see, there's no traffic that cars shouldn't collide. If they're colliding, they're obviously in the wrong place. So that would really be unnecessary. I know there's one intersection, the three-way stop on Lexington, that I feel I can certainly be sympathetic that traffic does come and go out of the subdivision at a fairly high rate of speed, but it's really not going to help the situation. A little past, in my past, I had a similar situation in another subdivision where I had a three-way stop put in because of a blind hill. To my utter shock, thinking that when I turn out with that stop sign in there, that people aren't going to run me over, they went right through the stop sign and they were still, so the intended consequences I don't think are going to occur when you put in a three-way stop there at Lexington and Musket. So I would certainly, I understand, like I said, the issue with the kids at the bus stop and whatnot, and I would be certainly be glad to help in changing the bus stop location, that type of thing. I know that can be done. So if that's the main concern, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next speaker?
Michael Land.
How we doing?
Good.
So I'm here for the stop sign at Land's End and Tower Park. I live on Gibraltar, which runs parallel with Tower Park at a point. We have cars that fly up and down our street and Tower Park as well. The stop sign on Tower Park is just going to divert more cars to my street. I don't have sidewalks, anything of that nature. My kids, neighbors' kids, we all play out in the front, and the cars already fly up and down. There's 2 blind corners on my street. There's one and then one on Tower Park. I don't know if anybody's been out to do a traffic survey with it, to put a stop sign up at this intersection. It's a 3-way stop. I don't assume many cars use Land's End to get to Cambridge Crossing. I don't know. But there's a stop sign at Gibraltar Point and Tower Park that stops Tower Park Drive. So everybody takes Gibraltar to get to Tower Park on the other end, so they don't have to stop. I don't know if there's a way we can do a one-way street of traffic. If there can be a survey done, however you guys want to do it. The stop sign's just not going to do anything to traffic. It's on a blind corner, and that's why they want it, is my assumption. And the only thing I can tell you on my background is I'm in law enforcement, and trying to do people at stop signs, they don't like them. And the first thing everybody wants to do is put one up, and they don't work. That's all I really have.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next speaker.
Next, we have Mark Tupman.
Hi, Mark.
Thank you for your time, council. Mike Land's neighbor. My name is Mark Tupman. Just kind of reiterate what he said. Every point he had, completely agree with. The issue in our neighborhood, which if you go through almost any street in any of our adjoining neighborhoods, there are signs out that say kids at play, signs that say this is not a race. The one I saw this yesterday, this is not a racetrack, it's a neighborhood. It's clearly an issue of speed and probably the amount of traffic, whether they're cutting through neighborhoods or change of patterns, whatever it is. Stop signs are only going to redistribute that traffic. I'm a psychology major. You see a stop sign and you go, oh, this is new. The next day, you're not going that way. You're taking a different route. So they've already put in 2 on our main road coming in Cambridge, and people will skip one to go around that one already. I've done it myself because I know that stop sign's there. It's probably faster depending on which way I'm coming in. It doesn't do anything except change traffic flow. And unfortunately for us in our neighborhood, or at least our street, this specific traffic stop will quadruple, which is hard to believe, the amount of traffic on our street, because they're all going to come our way both directions. Like Mr. Land said, a one-way street is probably a good option. We've talked about speed bumps. We've talked about anything else just to slow traffic down. There are 2 blind corners, as you mentioned. I know there's no good answer, but I just feel like all we're doing right now is just moving the problem to someone else's street, in this case mine, which is already a problem. It's only going to exacerbate the situation. So that's all I say about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next is Josh Norris.
Josh? He's serious, he's got a clipboard.
Thank you for having me. I live on Lexington, so I'd seen a sign for 11 stop signs. There's 6 streets in my neighborhood. I'm not really sure the whole issue on having the stop signs or what it would solve. I did oppose to 11 stop signs. I know that there's a few streets that, you know, could possibly benefit from, I don't know if it's over the safety of children or what the whole issue behind having the stop signs, but for me as a driver, stop signs are for traffic. And, you know, my son will be 14. I've raised him in my neighborhood. I've taught him, you know, you watch out for cars. You know, they will run you over. So the streets aren't a play zone for kids. And I do know that in my neighborhood there's people that you know, that they are worried about the safety of their children, and I drive with safety and looking out. You know, I've had children walk up and try and touch my work van while I'm driving. You know, so I am cautious, but ultimately it's the parents who guide their children to watch out for cars. In all the years that I've lived in my neighborhood, about 10 years, and the 2 accidents that I know of, somebody slid in the snow and hit a vehicle, and I know a gentleman that ran over a dog. Yeah, like I said, I am opposed to the 11. I think there's a few corners that, few of the main streets at the T's where they would be beneficial. But I've driven several of the surrounding neighborhoods that are all similar aged homes, and the stop signs in the neighborhoods, there is some that have maybe one additional stop sign other than when you pull out to Cox Hill, which is the main drive. There's a couple newer subdivisions. They do have a couple more stop signs throughout the main streets. But yeah, so I mean, I'd like to hear other people's feedback on the stop sign issue. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Dolores Stark.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Hi, Dolores.
My name's Dolores Stark.
There
This
you go.
one? Okay. And I'm here on behalf of Village Idlewise subdivision. It's a subdivision of 49 homes, and we have one stop sign. But that one stop sign leads us on to Cox Hill Road. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of the game Russian roulette, where you put the bullet in the chamber, spin it, pull the trigger, and hope it doesn't hit the chamber with the bullet in it. That's what it's like pulling out on Cox Hill Road. You take your life in your hands every time you try to either go left or right, in fact. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. And thanks for the analogy. That was good.
Robert Aquadro.
Hello, Robert.
Hi. Raise this a little, I think.
That's a little different in height there.
Yeah. So I want to echo Doris's comments. I live in the same subdivision, and it's basically, 2 blind corners that we have to pull out in the middle of, and going left, it makes me and my wife a little anxious to have to try to do that, because you have to look both ways, and you keep looking, and the traffic can come pretty fast from a blind, curve. You just can't, you have limited sight. So I know our behavior has changed to where we go right as much as possible. It's a lesser of 2 evils. So I do support the 3-way stop sign there. I am a certified safety professional. I have been for over 30 years, and it seems like the prudent action in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Melissa That's it.
All right. Hi, Melissa.
Hello. Back again. So I do live in the Lexington Square subdivision as well. I'm actually the one who started this because I do have 2 small children. You'll probably see them coming in. They're sitting outside right now. The reason we're asking for stop signs is because nobody is stopping. I mean, maybe my neighbor's right. Maybe I could educate my kids. My kids are 7 and 5. I can't help if my kids see a ball and want to go in the street or something like that. But these people fly by. My kid takes a bus maybe twice a week. Almost gotten hit at the bus stop that's right across the street of my house. I live on the main drag right off of Lexington and Musket, and I mean, it's horrible there. I've even called the police department saying, hey, come, I mean, this is a good spot to sit if you, need tickets to give out, it's perfect. No matter what people are saying that they're going the speed limit, they're not going the speed limit. I put something out in the street that has a little thing on it that says children at play. They've almost hit that on my garbage can. Like it's attached to my trash can, right? Not even a couple of inches away from my driveway. And they've almost hit that, and then they get out of the car yelling at me. Well, if that was my child, how would you like that? You should slow down. I mean, I actually have my children, like if this is my driveway, play to the right side so that way they can't, at least they're not getting on that main drag. But I mean, something needs to be done with these stop, either it's a speed bump, I don't know. I do know the chief of police that is out in Baldwin, and I know stop signs don't help, but I don't know another solution if it's like a speed bump there, or, I don't know. I don't know what a better solution would be, but educating people, it's not the young kids driving, it's the adults driving. I've seen it. Just being there, and like I said, my kid doesn't ride the bus every day. But if the first week of school, we almost got hit. I posted in our group, hey, here's the bus schedule, so you know when the bus is coming, slow down. It takes, so we add an extra commute. In the matter of 5 houses, there's about 10 kids there. They're outside playing. Why should we have to limit, why should I have to limit my kids? My kids can't play in the street. Like, they can't play, baseball out in the street or something, or kickball out in the street. Like, I don't know, ride their bike. It's just crazy that these people can't just drive slower, or, that we get stop signs up. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what a solution is better than a stop sign. Maybe if the police are listening, go stand out, sit on Lexington Drive and just watch, and
I think he's already made a few notes tonight, so there you go.
I've called, and I've even told them when the bus time was. I was like, you could sit in my driveway for all I care. I don't care. You have to ticket people. that's what we have to do then, and educate people that there are small kids. They should take a second, drive a little slower. I know when I was younger, I drove fast. I had a little car that, was loud and stuff like that. But now I have 2 small kids. They're the future of our generation. We need to be able to have them, let them outside and play. They should not be inside on a tablet. My kids are out there right now on a tablet. I don't really like that idea, but they have no choice, so they stay quiet. They can, let us go to the meeting. But they're the future generation. Let them play outside and let them be kids. And we shouldn't have to stop because of people can't drive. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Lay?
Hi, I'm Melissa's neighbor. I live 2 houses down, and on either side of me are 2 generations, and they've lived there 50-plus years and 30 on the other side. They wanted to be here tonight and are not, unfortunately, but they have a lot of history and stories from just living there and the danger of that main street. I know my neighbor to the right has had, in the 6 years I've lived in that neighborhood, has had to replace her mailbox twice because people have hit it. She's had parked cars, like friends of hers, she's had friends over and their cars have been parked out front. They've been hit. I personally have had to call the police within the last 3 months on some teenager that was flying down the road. So as Melissa said, I'm not sure if it's a stop sign that could fix this, or a speed bump, or something, but my children are also small as well. They're 4 and 6, and I'm terrified when they step out my front door. I can only tell them so many times, do not go run out in the street. Let the ball go, let the ball get hit, but don't run out in the street. And we don't have sidewalks, so I walk. I like to walk up to Shop and Save and do my grocery shopping or whatever. And I can't tell you how many times when I've been walking with my double stroller and my kid in it, when we're walking, coming to one of those T's and somebody does not stop, they are not seeing me, and I've had to almost physically get into a fight with them because they're not paying attention. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but I know it's scary living in our neighborhood because of the dangers, people just driving erratically and fast.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
That's all the cards I have.
So is anyone else? Yes, sir.
I can fill out a form later. I'm sorry. I wasn't planning on talking, but after listening to all that, I have to say one thing for you guys. I'm Bill Schultz. I live in the Cambrook, or Nottingham Forest subdivision as well. I talked to Councilman White last week, I believe. So as far as our parking issue in Cambrook, I really support it. All my neighbors do except one, and that one neighbor has 7 cars. And he has a 2-car garage that's full of crap, so he can't park any of them in his garage. So, but our houses, I don't know why, but I guess they were zoned weird because we have single-car driveways. And so when you have 2 cars, instead of having to do the car shuffle, they just park on the street. So that's that. But in regards to the speeding issue they're talking about,
Yes.
we had that issue on our street. I contacted the sheriff's department via email, and they came out and actually put a sign at my house, the speed limit trap sign, and just flash speed limits at people. And it does work. They did slow down. That was 2 years ago. I need the sign back again, but I mean.
It wasn't a trap.
Well, you know what, it wasn't because the county wasn't out there. I sent an email to the sheriff. They delivered the sign right outside my house. At least I could pay attention and see how fast people were going.
Yes.
So it was a way for me as a concerned citizen to actually to monitor it. And if I felt it would, and it did, it made a difference. People slowed down, but at least I had the data that I could actually go, yeah, now we have a problem. So I don't know if that's going to solve their issue, but it solved ours for a while. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on the traffic regulations? Seeing none, then we'll close that public hearing.
Mike, do you want to have Craig come up and explain what happens next?
Craig, do you want to come up and talk about what's going to happen from the traffic regulations hearing tonight? Chief, you can talk about how many tickets are going to be written later.
With tonight being the second public hearing, following this, we will go out and we will go to each site, evaluate the conditions that are there, review the traffic, do what we can, review accident reports, and eventually come back to the council with a recommendation on those which we believe should be adopted for your consideration, along with, various statistics and data that we can provide to help you make your decision.
Okay.
And that will probably be, with the cutoffs and the deadlines, hopefully December, but it may be January because of the lead time that we need to give you guys for consideration. So that would be the timeframe.
Dave?
Yeah, I don't know if the county's ever done this or not, but there was a problem road in O'Fallon, and I used to travel that because I had a friend that lived back in that subdivision. And the traffic, a lot of people cut through there to avoid a stop sign or a traffic light. And the times I went through there was a lot of people speeding. And they put in some specially designed, they weren't road bumps, but like divots that they put across the road. And for the first week, you saw some scrape marks, but after that, you didn't see any more scrape marks. But they put 2 of them along that road, and it's amazing how much that improved the speeding down that street.
Well, I know that's been tried in a lot of cases, and a lot of times they're taken out shortly after they're put in. I know the city of St. Charles put in quite a few several years ago, and they weren't in for very long. So, and I don't know the reasons why they weren't in. I don't know if they drew more complaints than they did compliments. They're kind of touchy with public safety vehicles and stuff. Snow plows. There's a lot of things that go up and down those streets that having something like that in the street may affect their ability to do their job. But that's something that could be explored. The county does not, as of right now, have a policy towards speed bumps or anything like that. So that would be a change in policy.
Yeah, these were dips like I've not seen before. I know some of the ones you've talking about, and I know speed bumps, don't work at all because snowplows take those out. But I'll give you the street. Maybe you can go.
We can go out and take a look at it, sure.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments on traffic regulations? Mr. Cronin?
I've seen used before those annoying rumble strips that they put on the sides of the highway to keep drivers alert. I've seen that. In fact, you see it sometimes on slow zones where they're right before a stop sign, they'll put those rumble strips, which doesn't affect the vehicles or anything. I think they just have a machine that they run over the pavement. But, I mean, nobody likes those things. When you're going down Highway 79, you get off a little bit and you hear that, it might make you slow down.
One of the problems with using something like that, and the same situation holds with stop signs, is if you're a person that tends to speed, you drive down the street and you hit something like a dip or a stop sign, you try to make up that time that you lost by stopping or by slowing down, so they go faster. They go faster after encountering those things. So that's kind of the give and take with these things, that most of our stop sign recommendations are for things other than speed control. It's for sight distance or other kind of safety things. So they don't really work for speeding. Stop signs don't. Now, some of these other things, you know, there may be some studies out there that we can look up to see if they actually do have an impact or not. But, you know, it's human nature to try to make up that time that you lost, and then all of a sudden you're driving 5 miles an hour faster than maybe you would have been otherwise. So that's something we have to be careful about.
Craig, do you have an opinion about straight narrowing, where they put, makes it look like a waistline almost on the sides of the road, where they'll bring it in so that, I think a lot of times people speed, especially on the wide open roads, the wide straight roads, people, you're able to go faster, relatively safe without running into people. But when things get narrower, it psychologically, you just slow down more. So do you have an opinion about bringing making narrower spots within the street to
we haven't
down?
tried that. Again, it would be, in most cases, we'd probably be taking parking away from somebody that might have had it before. My guess would be, and this is just, without doing any sort of research, is that if you're new to the area and you see that, it may actually have an impact on you. But I think if it's something you drive every day, you're probably going to get used to it and tend to ignore it, and it may not affect your speed, may not decrease your speed, but it may help in some situations with new residents, or new traffic, I should say. We can look into that a little bit more also.
Thank you.
Chief?
And just supporting Craig, we deal with this all the time. I mean, this happens to be a vocal subdivision, but we get them all over at the same time. And I've already talked to Sergeant Stotler. We're going to get with patrol and traffic tomorrow. We're going to move into that subdivision and enlighten some of the residents. But guaranteed, the majority of the people doing this are residents.
Right.
You gentlemen will be getting the calls from them because we don't have anything else to do. So we usually work TAMNIS, and we get this from all over, as you're all aware of. So you folks aren't unique.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. So with that, we will move on to our next public hearing for the CDBG 2018 Annual Action Plan and Citizen Participation Plan Amendment. Boy, that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Carol, do we have any speakers for this one?
Well, let's see. We have AC Dinoff has filled out a card regarding that, and Pam Struckhoff. So we have two.
Mr. Dinoff, come on up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, Arnie A.C. Dinoff, public advocate and county resident. This year, one additional municipality, which leaves every municipality but the city of O'Fallon. So the city of St. Charles joins the consortium of the Community Development Block Grant Program. I'm a big believer in consolidation, saving taxpayer money. Each community that has their own community development department has to employ a full-time administrator, which can go sometimes from $50,000 to $75,000 in salary plus benefits, which is about 25%. So we need to work as the administration and the county executive, meeting with the mayor and the city administrator in the city of O'Fallon, to have them consolidate to have less bureaucracy and less layers of government and save grant administrator money. So they are the final missing link. I don't know if it's an error, but I just wanted to make sure and bring it up in testimony to see if it needs to be corrected. In the third paragraph, or the second paragraph of the second page of the memo, It says comments not provided during the public meeting must be submitted by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 14th, 2017, to be included in the public record. By federal code and the Congressional Act for Community Development Grants, the draft of the annual action plan and citizens participation plan, public comment must be open for a 30-day window period, which would begin on Thursday, November 16th, 2017, and comments must be received by 5 p.m. on Friday, December 16th, 2017, to meet the confines of the federal code. In particular, I'd like to see some changes to this year's Community Development Block Grant Program. We have a huge baby boomer generation population in St. Charles County that is posing some situations and some problems to county leaders and government. We need to have some type of checkup system for the elderly of our community. Some of their daughters and sons move out of state, so we need to form some type of organization or some type of mechanism to check up on our seniors to make sure that they're doing okay. There's a huge transportation net that is needed. It's a huge demand and a huge need. I know in the city of O'Fallon, $5,000 was allotted last year. It was dried up in about 3 months. These baby boomers who, under their own initiative, gave up the keys to driving because it's just not safe for them. They need transportation to medical appointments, dental appointments, eye care appointments, to the grocery store for haircuts and basic needs. We need to look at providing this type of service to our residents. The Home Improvement Assistance Program, some of these elderly people are on fixed incomes and limited amount of revenues. They need help with replacement of roofs, ramps, gutters, and insulation. Assistance for the replacement of hot water tank heaters, heating systems, air conditioning systems. And there are some that are on very fixed incomes that can't afford their gas or their electric bills. So we need to provide some of these community assistance through the federal government for utility assistance. I'd also like to see public improvements to bring our county up to code. You know, we talk about the International Building Code and we want all of our citizens, but the county needs to set the example for our 400,000 citizens in terms of compliance with the America with Disabilities Act. Our sidewalks are out of compliance, our traffic signal crosswalks for people who are hearing impaired or people who don't have eyesight. They need to be brought up to the ADA, Americans with Disabilities standards. And of course, our own county public buildings. There are some county buildings that don't have the necessities to meet people with disability and that need the assistance to get from one floor to the other. We need to make sure that all of county government is accessible to all of our 425,000 residents, and we can't leave anybody off to the side. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Pam Struckoff. Good evening. I'm Pam Struckoff. I'm the Director of Programs over at the St. Joe Command Care Service. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Pam.
I'm just here to thank you all on behalf of the care service and the people we serve. We serve those who are in crisis or homeless, for the continued inclusion of funding for rental properties to be purchased, and then we are able to put veterans, seniors, or the disabled in the homes. And I would just strongly hope that that funding will again be included in the 2018 budget. We have a dedicated investors who are dedicated to providing safe and stable housing for these clients, and not slumlords. We are not slumlords. We want our people to be safe and sanitary in their homes. So I would hope that that funding will be included again in the 2018 budget. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks for all you guys do. Is there anyone else to speak? Last opportunity. Anybody who want to speak on CDBG? With that, we'll close the public hearing on that. We will move on to public comments. Public comments, generally, we take 3 speakers, pro and con, on each side of the aisle. You have 3 minutes to speak. The buzzer will go off. We'll ask you to wrap up your comments, and we'll move on to the next speaker. Our first speaker tonight is?
Well, Mr. Dienoff has other topics, so he was the next one for other topics.
Come on back for repeat performance, Mr. Dienoff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, Arnie A.C. Dienoff, Public Advocate and County Resident. You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but county decorum is very important to me, and the treatment of residents. We need to treat our residents with substance, dignity, and respect. I have to call out Council District Number 1, Mr. Cronin, for council decorum. When a resident speaks during traffic concerns, and they have concerns that they took out of their schedule to come up and visit with you, I think that council members should refrain from speaking to one another or talking about issues and wait till after the meeting to discuss those. You should give the residents the respect and listen to them. You are paid $750 per meeting or $16,500 annually. I think that you owe us, the citizens, that common courtesy. I would hope that the police commanders here in the audience are taking notes and will request action through our traffic safety unit of the police department for much needed enforcement. I do believe that the police chief did mention that, and I think that we want compliance rather than tickets. So it's about public education. As you talked in the budget meeting, it's 2% pay raise for county employees, but yet you want to raise their bi-weekly cost of health insurance, $28.52 for the employee or 5% for the family. They're not going to have any pay raise when it's all done and said. I think you need to look at why the county executive in his office tax and spends us as citizens. We need to look at not creating new positions, like you have several new positions created on tonight's agenda. We need to not jump the salary for county executive staff members, but we need to start at the bottom with the people in the trenches and give them the reward and work towards the top. And 202 lobbyists paid $150,000 to represent Mr. Ellman. It's just ludicrous. Please cut that out of the budget. And our county vehicles and public safety vehicles, we have fleet managers and much preventive maintenance. We're getting rid of cars at $60,000 or 60,000 miles instead of 250,000 miles, which they're built to go. Bill number 4527 is creating a $75,726 annual project manager for management of the day-to-day of the Gateway Greenlight program. There is no return on investment, and I encourage you to vote no to spend taxpayer money on a program that just isn't working for us. Also on your agenda is a municipal court in terms of adding an additional clerk and the judge. Well, I have a problem with the county prosecutor and the county counselor refusing to file and prosecute traffic cases, tickets written by highway patrol troopers in Troop C. These troopers are frustrated. By this change, it is taking money from our county school districts, which shares 50% of the fines, and putting it in the county coffers. I think that that was wrong. And also,
Thank you, Mr. Dienoff. We appreciate your speaking. And our next speaker is?
The last one I have is Mr. Burkemper.
You're good. We'll talk to you when we pull up your bill. Thank you very much. Anyone else to speak during public comment? All right, with that, we will close public comments. We'll move on to oral report from the county executive.
No report this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Any items to be removed or entertain a motion?
Motion for approval is submitted.
Motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Second. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The consent agenda is approved. With that, I would go back and ask Ms. Lycum, would you like to do a formal introduction of our new Parks Director?
Absolutely. Ryan, would you stand? I think many of the councilmen know Ryan Graham, who, oh, sorry. I always think I'm loud enough for everybody to hear me. Sorry about that.
It's for the television audience.
Right. Ryan has been with us 10 years and has been an integral part of the Parks Department. He came as part of the historic part of the program there, but I will tell you that when he interviewed, he knew everything about his department, and he is the type of person in that department that you've seen him volunteer no matter what the program is. So he's excited. He's got a lot of new ideas. He's very much interested in programs that serve the needs of the citizens of this county. And so we were thrilled to get his application and to see his enthusiasm and ideas for the job.
John, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to say that he's got some big shoes to fill. Our Parks Director, Betty Jan Kramer, really did a wonderful job in helping develop our parks, and along with County Executive. And I'm very happy to see that we hire within, and I just wish you all the best, and I'm glad you're on board.
Well said.
Anyone else?
I like to say, I know him by his face, and when he showed up, I met him, Steve, we were at that function, and he was running the shooting range.
Yes.
And I thought, what an enthusiastic employee. I mean, just a great attitude, and I'm glad to see it's you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Brazel, he spends a lot of time in your district.
And I know that's what I told him, we're going to have to talk.
Actually, Ryan, I think it may be closer to 11 years, because I think you were the first person I hired after I became a county executive. So good luck. We're counting on you, and I know you can do the job. Thank you, sir.
Ryan, welcome aboard. And with that, we'll move on to bills for final passage, starting with Bill number 4526.
Bill number 4526, an ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to add the position of Assistant Court Clerk 2 to the municipal court and increasing the time for the municipal judge.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4526? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to add the position of Assistant Court Clerk 2 to the municipal court and increasing the time for the municipal judge. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember DeHammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill number 4526 passes. We'll move on to Bill number 4527.
Bill number 4527, an ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to add management of the day-to-day engineering operations of the Gateway Greenlight Program to the Office of Roads and Traffic.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to add management of the day-to-day engineering operations of the Gateway Greenlight Program to the Office of Roads and Traffic. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Bill number 4527 passes. Move on to Bill number 4528.
Bill number 4528, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for certain law enforcement services, including patrol services and enforcement of certain municipal ordinances related to police services.
Any questions or comments on 4528? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for certain law enforcement services, including patrol services and enforcement of certain municipal ordinances related to police services. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Bill number 4528 passes. Move on to Bill number 4529.
Bill number 4529, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the Missouri State Highway Patrol regarding the transmission, receiving, and dissemination of the information contained in the Missouri Uniform Law Enforcement System, MULES, and National Crime Information Center, NCIC systems of records for files relating to stolen vehicle files and stolen license plate files.
Any questions or comments on 4529? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the Missouri State Highway Patrol regarding the transmission, receiving, and dissemination of the information contained in the Missouri Uniform Law Enforcement System, MULES, and National Crime Information Center, NCIC systems of records for the files relating to stolen vehicles files and stolen license plate files. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill number 4529 passes. Move on to Bill number 4530.
Bill number 4530, an ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to accept a grant to fund a non-merit grant position within the St. Charles County Police Department and amending section 115.710 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, concerning the personnel administration plan related to this position.
Mr. Cronin?
Good job, Chief. Good job to Cyber Crimes Unit, and how fitting to be hiring a veteran for this program with grant money this close to Veterans Day. So kudos to all.
Any other questions or comments? No happy birthday, Marine Corps? Okay, there you go. I just had to throw that out for you. We'll call the roll.
An ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 to accept a grant to fund a non-merit grant position within the St. Charles County Police Department and amending section 115.710 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO concerning the personnel administration plan related to this position. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White? Yes. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes. Bill number 4530 passes. I understand bill number 4531 is to be withdrawn?
It's your bill, yes. The idea was to replace that one with with 3 separate bills that do the same thing.
So at the moment, the request is to withdraw that bill?
Second.
You
Second
withdraw
your
it,
motion.
and then you get the concurrence of 3 council members.
I'll make a motion to withdraw the bill.
Thank you. Motion's made. And
I concur.
I concur.
we have 4 concurs. With that, the bill is withdrawn. And that concludes us for bills for final passage. We'll move on to bills for introduction, starting with Bill 4533.
Bill number 4533, requested by Michael Herbert, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 17-11.
Any questions or comments on 4533? Mr. Cronin?
Parr family has been out in this area since there was a Parr Road. They're one of the original settlers of this area. There's no controversy on this. They just want to cut the piece of ground in half so one of the children or the family members can build there. So I'm supportive of it.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to bill number 4534.
Bill number 4534, requested by Michael Herbert, sponsored by Michael Elam. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1A Single Family Residential District to CO Office District as per application RZ 17-12.
Mr. Burkhamper, do you want to come up and talk about this bill? Mr. Burkhamper has come before planning and zoning, and there's some things that have happened since then, so I'll let him explain where they're at on this.
Hello.
Hi.
The planning and zoning meeting on the 18th, when we submitted our application, I guess it was reviewed by planning and zoning, and they were in favor of it. But and they gave me a letter recommending passage, but it failed in a 3-6 or 6-3 vote. And the application failed largely because we weren't working with a developer. The property is not for sale. We had no prospects for sale, and we had requested a rezoning to commercial office or commercial business office. Whereas the Envision 2025 plan was for high-density residential. But anyway, the commission voted, they said, you know, this seems a little willy-nilly. They suggested that, you know, if we were further along in our plan or development, or at least had the property up for sale, they might have considered it. So since then, my wife and I have been in conversation with a couple different folks who want to talk to us, who have reached out to us about doing something with the property. And but we are so not far into the discussions that what I wanted to do tonight was ask for this this bill to be tabled for like 4 to 6 months or something like that, to give me ample time to continue these discussions with these developers and see where this goes. So.
Excellent.
That's all.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Burkemper at this time?
Just make a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Motion to table and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The bill has been tabled.
Thank you.
Good luck. We will move on to bill number 4535.
Bill number 4535, request by Chief Dave Todd, sponsored by Mike Elam. An ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 for a position within the St. Charles County Police Department.
Any questions or comments about this bill?
I just got a question. Is
Chief?
there going to be, is there an increase? Is this going to cost more money, or what does this do with the budget?
I'm sorry.
What does this do with the budget, Chief?
We're trying to work within the budget. I don't have the exact numbers. Captain Hunt may have them.
With the resignations this year and some retirements, the police department is saving about $98,000. So we're working within the budget, and I think that was in an email that went out maybe to the council that kind of explained, we dissected all of it, and we realized there was about $100,000 that we've saved that we can fit this position into the budget with those by eliminating certain positions and with retirements and resignations.
So, Chris, are you adding personnel, or are you just keeping it pretty much even across the
I mean,
board?
our FTE numbers are not, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not increasing. They're staying the same, or might be, I think they're staying the same.
What we've done is move 2 positions into positions. One of the positions, I think, is the crime analyst. We've talked with you folks before.
Right.
Because you call us for data, and we're not making this a commission position because we want cops on the streets. This is a civilian position, so it'll be cheaper, no vehicle, blah, blah, blah. And we can get the data back that you need, we need, and that the public requests. So that was one of the positions, and it was, we used one of the positions that came from records because we don't have the CCW request anymore. So we're moving that over to make the best use of our bang for the buck.
So, Councilman, if I could summarize, what this is they got the FTE, the authorization to have the staff from the elimination of somebody in records, and they saved $40,000 from that. Since about mid-year, we've been telling the departments, if you're looking to do something different, you're gonna have to figure out a way to fund it permanently in-house, not just off of a trade-off. They then brought forward 3 retirements of very senior people that, looking at salary and benefits for those commissioned replacements, they showed us they had a permanent reduction in staff salary. That was the email that Councilman Elam and Klinghammer had asked for, and we got out to Councilman Elam and all of the rest of you last
Chris
week.
sent that out, right?
So they saved a little over
remember seeing that
$98,000
now.
permanently in the budget. They're expecting this position probably won't be exactly at starting salary because they need somebody with the skills to do this work, but it'd be well within what they've saved between the elimination of the 1 record clerk position and the 3 retirements.
Okay, thank you.
I still have a question.
Ms. Day?
If somebody has their identity stolen, how many people do you have that work on that type of stuff?
We have Detective Yarborough, that's his specialty, and that pretty much is handled by him. If that answers your question, that's his specialty, and he handles that.
Do we have a lot of those?
We do around tax time. We don't, it happens all the time, but we get bombarded, as every agency does, around tax time. My wife's been hit every year. So we get bombarded about that time. The IRS sends them to us. We fill out a form, and then it moves on to the IRS, excuse me. The cleanup rate is very minimal. There's not a lot of luck with that, but it's one of the up-and-coming crimes.
I'm just surprised there's not more people that come to your department with identity theft problems. And the reason I say that, because it happened to me, and I was shopping on Amazon. So for all the folks out there that shop on Amazon, try and buy local, because you can't get your identity stolen when you're shopping online. And but I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get a police report, and I had the address of the people that supposedly had taken my identity, and I never had a follow-up that anybody ever checked out that address or contacted those police up there, and I just
The
wondered.
police up where?
In Michigan, the address I had that they wanted my information sent to and credit cards sent to, that the information I received.
The chances are it's a false address, but I don't know that without having, I mean, if you give us a call tomorrow, we'd certainly be happy to look into it.
Well, I did a little digging, and I looked that up on the internet myself, and there was an address for that, but I don't know how that department up there would have, if they even responded to that. So I just wanted
You know,
to
and
make
it
sure.
would depend on the size of the department. I mean, we're pretty blessed. Detective Yarbrough is very good at this, and he works well with the other agencies of the county, but when a lot of times with this identity theft, we're not dealing with somebody in St. Charles County. So we're doing the same thing. We're reaching out to other organizations across the country, and especially if you're shopping on the internet, the next time you come out to see us, we'll take you into cybercrime. We have a screen, and it looks like when we first come out with the video games, missile attack, and it shows the cyber attacks we're getting hit by continually, hundreds of thousands of times daily, coming from China, coming from Russia, daily. It's mostly hitting big corporations, but it's hitting Joe Citizen, hits them a lot. We get a lot of tax time, and we'll get hit hard now that, as you just point out, everybody's going to be doing their Christmas shopping, and when we get calls and get reports.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure you weren't short of staff.
Dave, how do you avoid, quickly, how do you avoid that, when you say tax time, how do you avoid that kind of criminal activity being a victim of?
Well, I'll get in trouble with the IRS. I mean, usually the ones we're dealing with, they file electronically, because that's the way it's done. Again, my wife has been hit twice, and you file electronically, all of a sudden you get notified somebody else is collecting your check, or somebody else is giving you information, you'll get a call back from the IRS. We have an in-house officer during tax time, just handles that exclusively, and they're just directed in to send, and we fill out a report. As far as investigating, we do not, because it's forwarded onto the IRS, and sometimes they clear it up and sometimes they don't. It's just the gamut. It's just how much your information. Once you do that electronically, your social security number's out there, your date of birth out there, all your information's out there. And it's just how hard do they want to get it? Again, you'd have to see the screen, and they're just bombarding us daily. And it's as much as they hit the big businesses, they hit the citizens. Because a lot of times you're cleaned out and you don't know it until it's too late. What's critical is they kill your credit. And your banks are closing your accounts. You're getting kicked out of your house. And the folks, they're coming to us the best they can, and we're pointing out they're victims of a crime. But, I mean, it can just ruin your life, your credit, and your banking. And sometimes people don't know. Apparently you caught it early, and they don't know it until it's too late. And all of a sudden their banking's calling, and then we do the best we can, and the banks work well with us. And now we're just now getting with cybercrime, and we've been working with Ms. Lycom and Mr. Ellman have been on us trying to get better cooperation. We're trying to reach out to the organizations such as MasterCard and other big businesses and assist them as best as we can. But, there's, as Sheriff Lewis will tell you, we can only be so many places at so much time. So we do the best we can, and you support us well, so we appreciate the help. Did I answer your question, sir?
No, that was good, thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Chief. We will move on to bill number 4536.
Bill number 4536, request by Sheriff Scott Lewis, sponsored by Mike Elam, an ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 for a position within the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department.
Any questions or comments about 4536? I think you got to pass, Sheriff, because they asked all the questions to the chief. So there you go.
I was going to say, this is an even trade, and usually court security aides come in at or near the beginning of the range. So this, again, was a senior employee retiring, so it'll probably actually be a little bit of savings to his department.
There you go. Move on to bill number 4537.
Bill number 4537, request by Simon Wong, sponsored by Mike Elam, an ordinance amending the 2017 budget adopted by ordinance 16-104 for a position within the St. Charles County Information Systems Department.
Any questions or comments, bless you, on 4537? Seeing none, we'll move on to 4538.
Bill number 4538, requested by Craig Tykowski, Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance amending section 410.370 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinances regarding street pavement requirements.
Any questions or comments on 40? Yes, Mr. Cronin.
I poured a lot of concrete in projects in my life, and pouring concrete on top of raw dirt is pretty silly. Any concrete contractor will tell you that's a no-no. I didn't realize we were doing this in the past, but I support Craig's efforts here to get a 4-inch granular base into that concrete, because that way the concrete will be poured properly and we'll have less slab replacements, save the county a lot of money down the road.
Any other questions or comments on this?
Craig, in the spec, do you put any steel in it, or is that not a requirement, or do we? I didn't see any steel in it, or I guess you're not requiring that?
Well, this doesn't really change anything with the actual pavement itself. This is just adding a granular base beneath the pavement. But our street specs do not, and even MoDOT, nobody really uses steel in concrete slabs anymore except for at the joints. There's longitudinal bars that are placed at the joints, but the fabric that you used to see back in the old days, that's really not used anymore.
Okay. Are you requiring those joints to be sealed for freeze and thaw?
Yeah, we have always crack seal. In fact, we do a annual crack seal program where we go back and crack seal existing streets. But any new street that is poured gets crack sealed. Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Move on to Bill 4539.
Bill number 4539, requested by Craig Tchaikovsky, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance declaring a portion of Guthrie Road to be abandoned and vacated.
Mr. Cronin.
This is a complicated one, and so we take a look at this map, and long and short of it is the county's abandoning this roadway because a new roadway was put in. This is Guthrie Road, right north of Lake St. Louis. The piece of ground that we're abandoning is about 0.68 acres. I called Scott Shipman's office to get a valuation of it and based it 27 grand an acre. It's worth about $18,000. So at first I was concerned about, well, we're giving away $18,000 worth of property that the taxpayers paid for. But going back and forth with Greg Dorman and John Greifsue, we also found out that this particular developer was giving us an equal piece of ground, actually larger piece of ground, and additional right-of-ways along Guthrie and Mexico. So while we're giving up 0.68 acres, we're getting more right-of-way on Guthrie and Mexico, which that area is developing. There's a lot of new subdivisions. We're going to need that right-of-way down the road. So we're really not giving anything away free. We're actually more like a trade. We're giving up a piece of ground that we don't use for anything. We're gaining some right-of-way that we can use down the road for future expansion of those roads. So it turned out to, while it looks like it's a vacation or giving away property, realistically, we're getting a pretty good deal, I believe. Additionally, the person on the right side of the map, okay, they indicated to the county that they had no interest in this piece of ground. So the only person that was interested was the party on the left, and like I said, those are the folks that are giving up right away to make it all square with the county. So my first concerns were we were giving something away, but Mr. Dorman and Mr. Greifsue enlightening me the fact that we're getting actually a better deal than we're getting ground that we can use more, a lot more than this. It's more valuable than this in exchange for this vacation.
Very well.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? With that, that will wrap up bills for introduction. Move on to tabled bills.
Yes, I'd like to take Bill 4520 off the table.
Motion's made to...
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Bill number 4520 is back on the table.
Yes, this is the bill where the gentleman was asking our forgiveness, I guess, for not getting a building permit in Park Charles South. And at the last meeting, I kind of tried to give him an opportunity to talk to his neighbors and see if he could, work something out that would, maybe appease us. I have not heard from him, and I don't think he did that. If you'll remember, the Planning and Zoning voted, pretty overwhelmingly to deny this request. So my suggestion is that we go ahead and vote it down.
Mr. Klinghammer?
I second that.
Any other discussion on this matter?
Does the gentleman know that we're going to be discussed? Did he know we're bringing it up tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on this matter? Seeing none, would you call the roll?
So, Mike,
An
I'm
ordinance,
sorry, hang on.
I want to make sure, this is a yes is granting the variance, is that correct? Or no?
A no is turning him down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Are you,
I'm sorry, Don. No, I got
Are
it,
you
because
good?
some of them are doing
No, I
it
understand.
backwards, you know? No, that's good.
very well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a vote to remove it from the table?
We
Just by
we did.
voice vote? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So just to make sure, we are up to speed, correct?
Yes.
I believe we're good.
Right,
Second.
it's on the table.
Good.
So
You
now we
made me
ready?
question myself now, so, you know,
Are we ready to read the title?
Yes, ma'am. Call the
Okay.
roll.
An ordinance approving the amended planned unit development of Park Charles South, Plat 2, Lot 250, to allow a front yard setback of 24.5 feet for a carport as per application AVR 17-01. Councilmember Cronin.
No.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
No.
Councilmember Elam.
no.
Councilmember Hollander.
No.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
No.
Councilmember White.
Bill number 4520 fails. Any other action on Bill 4508?
Not at this time.
Not at this time?
No. Dave, did you want to, do we have an ad hoc meeting tomorrow night, or what's the plan?
No, the meeting for tomorrow night is going to be postponed probably till next week. I'll have Donna notify everybody.
Did you know that, Donna? Okay, okay, because I didn't until, yeah, okay. And Keith didn't know either, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So move on to announcements, miscellaneous. Anyone? Mr. Cronin?
With the hunting heritage that our county has, there's an interesting story on KSDK about a deer that the local folks out in St. Paul call the St. Paul Giant, okay? And that deer was actually shot by my best friend and 10 days ago with a bow, and then his son finished it off during rifle season. But it's a pretty interesting story on KSDK about a deer that's been populating around St. Paul for a lot of years. You might want to read it. Additionally, you can remind hunters at the time that that also it is regulation in St. Charles County to take your harvest deer into the Conservation Department to be checked for chronic wasting disease. So that being said,
Joe, did I hear that it actually had like 39 points?
39 points. I got a picture of it on my phone.
it may be a new state record, but people have been seeing it around St. Paul for 5 or 6 years, and you hear a lot of stories. But this area was right off of Hoff Road in 70. It's a pretty incredibly smart deer that avoided the traffic of 70 and the railroad trains and everything else, but it was the end of its life cycle, too. Just like myself and Mr. Brazel.
I was at this picture, it's all over Facebook. This thing is enormous. It's like an elk.
Yeah. For local people, too, this young man, his name is Phillips, and a lot of you old-timers remember Ivan Phillips. He owned the grocery store in O'Fallon and was a mayor of O'Fallon for many years. This deer was shot with Ivan Phillips's rifle. He's passed on now, but it's got a lot of historical significance. This young man is also the son-in-law of Henry Hoff from Hoff Road, whose farm was on. So for the local folks out there, it's kind of a cool story. So thought y'all might want to know.
Is there anything else? I would like to remind everybody that as of December, we have new meeting times. So bless you, bless you.
Thank you.
Instead of meeting on the 2nd and the last during December, we meet on the 1st and the 3rd, so we can get the budget done, so the county executive has his 10 days from the time the budget's done to be able to sign it by the end of the year. So just a reminder, we'll remind you about that at the next meeting also, but we are meeting the first Monday and the third Monday, so please check your calendars and make sure you can be here. It's a rip-roaring time. You don't want to miss it. Anything else? Entertain a motion to dismiss?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are dismissed. Thank you.